And here we are with the Media Education Lab. We have a really great topic to explore with you today. We're talking about public service announcements created by students. Here we are with the Media Education Lab. Aha! We have a really great topic to explore with you. Now I see that the recording is happening. People are entering in the room. Here's my first question to you, Frank. Why should students make public service announcements?
Renee, I have no idea. Renee, did you get my anniversary card?
No.
Renee, did you forget? This is our anniversary.
What do you mean?
I knew you'd forget. 1 year ago, we started regular webinars about media literacy. And I'm hoping those folks that have joined us today know about the series and the fact that we put our brains together regularly and think, what would be compelling and interesting, and how can we get people to join us both live and pre-recorded, and so why should students do PSAs? I'll tell you why I've been doing them, Renee. I think it's really, really fun. First of all, I think media literacy can be fun, but also I think it's the best of media literacy because it involves analyzing media messages and then giving those students the opportunities to make media messages. And I think that's really critical today. I work with a lot of teachers and I see students doing media production, but I don't see them doing the media analysis part. And so when you and I collaborate on something like this, we're trying to emphasize both analysis and production.
Boy, that is a really key point. I feel like that really underlines a lot of the reasons why having students make public service announcements is a really great activity. Of course, these days, because I'm on the bandwagon to teach about propaganda. I want students to realize that propaganda can be beneficial, not just harmful. I want students to realize that propaganda surrounds them, right? And that plenty of people are trying to influence them for good. Right. So for me, teaching about public service announcements is a way to teach about propaganda. But Frank, you're right that you're reminding me it was exactly 12 months ago when we created this concept of the media literacy badge. We said, if you come to 4 of these and you write an email about how you teach media literacy, we'll give you a badge. And now we've had about 5 or 6 people who've gone through that process. We invite you to do that. The series that we are going to continue to run is partly because we get so much out of the lively discussion and feedback and ideas from folks who are in the room. So here's our plan for today. We're going to talk about what public service announcements are. We're going to talk about why should students create them. We're going to talk about some examples of PSAs, and we're going to talk a little bit about the different pedagogical strategies and choices that educators have to make, the kind of complexities and some of the paradoxes that get into it. And then we're going to get a chance to meet Ely Fan, and we're going to learn about her work in Columbia, South Carolina as a middle school drama and art teacher, teaching students to create propaganda in a collaboration, Frank, that I think you actively participated in. So does that sound like a plan?
I'm so excited, and I wish I was here to participate. I really do. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. I am here, and we should thank everybody who's signed up, because I know every one of you has a million things to do, and you've set aside this hour to be with us. And so we're going to fill it with some really great information, and you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to get to meet my colleague, Ely, who's done some fantastic work, and it's so nice to collaborate. It's nice to be a media educator, to be able to collaborate with a teacher and be invited into her school and be welcomed by her principal, and to talk about how do we make the connection between what young people are exposed to and what we want them to learn, and of course, media literacy.
Well, Frank, I know that you've been influencing a generation of teachers over your long career as a media literacy educator. But I do see that this marvelous piece from Middleweb, that's the official publication of the National Council of Teachers of English, just looks like it was just published a few days ago. Can you tell me about it?
Renee, I don't know if you know, we don't have all the slides up full screen yet.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
But
Really?
I will talk about that. So after my experience of
Mhm.
working with Yealy's students, I was just so eager to share what I had done with her and with those students to write. And I've been writing at middleweb.com for, believe it or not, 10 years now. So I look at the media, look at popular culture and what's going on in the news and try to make the media literacy connection. So if you don't know about middleweb.com, there's a QR code there. I would invite you to look at it. Even if you're an upper elementary teacher or a high school teacher, I think you would benefit from the Middleweb columns that I've been writing. But so there's the latest one that I wrote about this experience working with Yealy and her students, which was really rewarding.
Wow, that is great. Now, can you see my slides now, Frank?
Yeah, but not full screen.
Not full screen. Why is that? Hold on, let me see what I'm doing wrong here. What am I doing wrong here? Hold on here. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go stop share. I'm going to go back to this guy right here. I'm going to go back to this guy right here. And now I'm going to put it on slideshow. Now you should be able to see it full screen, right?
Nope, I'm still seeing your slide, your preview slides off to the left.
Oh, man.
So while you're working on that, I want all the participants to think about this one question that we want to pose, and that is, can you recall a public service announcement that you have seen recently? And then you could use the chat feature to tell us about a PSA that you can recall. And we're throwing up one now full screen of some very famous PSAs. I can remember, only you can prevent forest fires, that grisly voice of the bear speaking to us. And I recall why we had this campaign. People were throwing their cigarettes out into the woods, right? And we were having a problem there. And the one I didn't put up here, Renee, was the seatbelt campaign, which was extremely successful at the time, right?
Right. I was thinking about the don't text and drive PSAs that I've been seeing a lot of. And I definitely have had to develop a whole bunch of strategies to put my phone like in the back seat, because I am vulnerable to texting and driving. I don't know why, but yeah. So some really interesting examples are coming in the chat, Frank. And while oh, go ahead.
Especially those around the vaccine, right? The campaign, the building the awareness, making sure that people see that message, not only on television, but on radio, billboards. When I think about PSAs, I think about commercials primarily, but these campaigns, those with the ad council, are all over the place. I mean, so if you think of a medium, there's PSAs have been there.
Right.
And
great point. They're in radio, they're in social media, they're in magazines, they're in film, they're everywhere. Frank, one of the things I really love about the Ad Council is the Ad Council has a really great teaching resource for helping to understand the history of public service announcements. And whenever I start teaching about public service announcements, I want to explain how they were rooted in wartime propaganda, right?
That's a really good point.
The Ad Council started by selling war bonds to raise money for us to fight against the Nazis in World War II, right? And what it became was a group of advertisers who offered pro bono, that means free services, to nonprofit organizations and good causes. Now, I am too young to remember any of these campaigns, but I sure do remember some of these campaigns. Do you remember any of these campaigns, Frank?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, I'm willing to bet that during the 40s, during the war bonds campaign, most of the people went to the movies, and that's where they got their newsreels. And I bet you the war bond message was widely distributed through the movie theaters.
That's right. That's right. And for me, my all-time favorite public service announcement is the only one that ever won an Emmy. Can I show it to you, Frank?
Oh, yeah, not just me. Show it to everybody. We're bated breath here.
We're going to critically analyze this when we're done. You know that.
I can't see it.
Ah, no, you can't see it?
No.
Damn.
I can hear it.
What's wrong with my... Man, Frank, I'm so upset about this. Hold on here. Hold on. It's showing in full screen on my machine, but I'll try it a different way. I'll just go to YouTube and type in "Love Has No Labels." Let's try it that way. Let's see if it works that way.
Oh, I remember this campaign. I remember how many of our participants have seen it.
Can you see it now, Frank?
Nope, I just see a frozen YouTube page.
Okay, clearly I have some screen sharing problems, and I don't know why, and that's a problem. So Frank, let me put the link in the chat, and then you will try to share it. Here's the link in the chat.
Okay, it looks like it's starting to play.
Valentine's Day 2015. I did it for you, Frank.
Well, it's still frozen.
Okay, so I feel like I need somebody else to share. Frank, why don't you try? I don't know what's going on.
Can you stop it?
Because this has like no spoken language. It's all happening through the pictures. So you really have to see the pictures, but I'm not exactly sure why my Chrome is pooping out on me here. Frank, I put the chat. I put the YouTube in the chat. Open that up and screen share with us, or maybe Scott or Pamela, Iglika. we have some technology challenges here, and I don't know why. I'm going to try something. I'm going to try one more strategy, because sometimes when you share your screen as a publish.
Okay, yeah, back it up there. We can see it moving now.
You can.
Yeah, I don't hear it though.
Really so totally weird. Okay, hold on here. And who's sharing there?
I am, Adam.
Good show, Adam.
Is it working?
Make your sound, share your sound, share sound.
From the menu on the bottom, you have to check this share sound, because if you're on a desktop,
it's a Zoom, not a YouTube setting.
Is it not? You can't hear it?
Yep. Okay, hold on. I'm going to try. Just a second. One more. This is a third time is a charm here. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. First PSA to ever receive an Emmy Award.
No,
Iglika, can you see it?
no.
No.
I just crossed fingers
Oh
because.
my God, what is happening to me?
Would you want me to try?
Yeah, would you?
Yeah, of course.
There you go. What is going on here? What do you, how can you have a webinar if you can't share your screen? Oh, good show, girl. Make the
Okay.
sound. Play the sound.
Okay. Share sound. How about now?
Yeah, you did it. We love you, girl.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
My heart doesn't see race.
Love has no age limit.
That's my best friend.
We are neighbors and best friends.
We all have different religions, but we have universal love as well.
I love my sister.
Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Ow. Holy moly. All right, Frank. What do you think about that public service announcement? What do you notice about how it was constructed? Iglika, thanks for sharing it with us. Now we're eager to hear your opinions on this complicated work of propaganda.
I have one word, and then I want to hear from others, and that word is powerful.
Unmute your microphone and give us some ideas and thoughts about what do you notice about how that piece of propaganda, that public service announcement, is constructed? What'd you like about it? What'd you hate about it?
Well, I think that it is very powerful, emotional, and I think that the message is very strong. I don't know how could be, it's interesting to think about how it could be received, interpreted and assessed by someone that is strongly against these values?
Yeah.
This I think is the important question.
Yeah,
Because
excellent observation. You know, it activates strong emotions, but it might make some people angry. It might make some people feel very proud and happy, right? Different emotions might be activated by this work. Great observation.
Because it makes me believe in a better world, in the world that I imagine and I would love to live in, and my children to grow up in, and to be free to love whatever they want. But for someone on the other side of the spectrum, oh my.
Can you imagine this PSA being produced and broadcast 10 years ago or 20 years ago? No. Yeah.
Or in Bulgaria? Oh my. Oh no. No, it's not possible. It's just impossible to be broadcasted in Bulgaria, I have to tell you.
Yep. So what I think is really interesting about public service announcements is that they really position students as being social change agents in a way, right? Because they're using the power of communication and information to make a change in the world, whatever that change is. And Frank, you have talked a little bit about how helping students understand what makes for a social cause is a really important part of teaching media literacy. And you define, I think you can see my slides now. I think you can see my slides now. You define a PSA in a really certain and really specific way.
This is a part of the presentation that I did to Yili's students. I actually sent her a couple of articles as background, to make sure they had some prior knowledge before I showed up. And so this is the general definition of what a PSA is. And I highlighted those words. And so when we got down to social issue, I asked the students, did they know what a social issue was? Could they brainstorm some social issues? And the next slide, I think, is also really important. Renee, if you'll change to that one.
Are you seeing this?
No.
Okay, let me try it. Let me try it again. So it's not making the change.
Yeah, we wanted them to think about these 4 factors as they thought about what would my PSA be about. So the public has to recognize the situation as a problem. It has to be against the general values. A large segment of the population has to recognize the problem as a valid concern, and the problem can be rectified or alleviated. So I actually had one student say, you know, I've got these potholes on the street in my neighborhood. And I said, well, hold on a minute. Is that a problem that everybody in the United States recognizes, or is that just local? You know, we wanted to get them, thinking critically. And I'm willing to bet that if we hadn't come in and done this with these students, they may not have had the opportunity to think about a social issue. How do I address it? How do I script it? How do I produce it? How do I think about where am I going to distribute it? And what impact that message is going to have on those who are exposed to it.
Yeah. And there you go. You having outlined essentially a whole lot of the process. Yili, I'd love you to introduce yourself and talk to us about the process, the experience of making PSAs with your middle school students. Can you set the stage and give us an understanding of the learners and the context before you tell us what your adventure looked like?
Okay, thank you so much, Renee. I'm so honored to invite Mr. Baker to our students to introduce the PSA. Yeah, Mr. Baker, he offered me different subjects, and what PSAs is one of those. So I chose this is because in my drama class, it's not only about theater, but also about video making, because I was an instructor in the Central Academy of Fine Arts in the film department, I taught freshmen about directing on film and acting in films. So when I come to the United States, I work in a public charter school, East Point Academy. So I teach second grade and eighth grade. So when Frank and I talk about the collaboration, I choose the middle school to do it because every afternoon we have the theater drama class. So in that way, we can really work on a 1 week project on this PSA. So because in our class is a video making project basic class. So every week they are assigned a topic and they are going to work in groups. And then Friday is the premiere day, presentation day, but I project everything on the wall. So it looks like we premiere their short film. So in that way, I think invite Frank to our classroom to make a 1 week project on PSA is something they have prepared before about the technology and the collaboration part, but they are not exposed to the PSA's concept. So they have the technique to work video making, but they need the critical thinking mindset. So that's why Frank bring all the new concept and media literacy to our classroom. Is what a great experience for me and for my students.
Wow, how cool. And I love that idea that learning about public service announcements can be layered into a class that's focused on media making. And in some ways, students really are already empowered in their class by thinking in some of that. And from focusing on drama, then they also understand this idea about activating people's emotional response.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Essential for public service announcements to happen. Well, Frank, why don't you tell me your experience of visiting Ely's class and what you noticed? And then I wonder if we can dig right into what the students created and how they created. That'd be cool to learn more about too.
So her students were seated at tables in groups, and we actually showed them a PSA. First to give them an idea. And I actually had them close their eyes and just listen to it. And at the end of it, I had them open their eyes and tell me, what did you hear? So the reason I did that was the precursor to introducing the 2-column script with audio on the left and video on the right. And I had them brainstorming a social issue. And so they had to come to a consensus. What are we going to write about? What are we going to produce our PSA? What social issue is? And they came up with some really good ideas, but it wasn't until they came up with a consensus that I then actually gave them the blank template and said, now you can start writing. But I said, ignore the video column right now. You need to concentrate on what it is you want to say. What do you know about this subject? What do you want your audience to know about the subject? And what is your call to action? So the PSA that we showed them was a childhood hunger PSA where actor Jeff Bridges holds up a sign with the URL, inviting the audience to go there. So I wanted them to think, but also Ely and I also knew that they had to do research. So you can come up with a subject like ocean pollution, that's a social issue, but what do you know about it? What do you know about the solutions? What do you want your audience to know? And so I made sure that they concentrated on that writing, that column there, and also timing it. Had to be exactly 30 seconds. And that 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper represents simply 30 seconds. And so I would move around the room and watch as they wrote, and I would actually stop them after they'd written 2 or 3 sentences. And I said, stop right now and time what you have. You're going to be surprised how much you've already written and how much time you've already taken. And maybe you haven't even gotten to the main points yet. But Renee, having students write a PSA, research it, produce it, and work in a collaborative effort. This is one of the most important parts.
It's not easy. It's not easy for middle school students to collaborate. That's for sure. Okay, so Yili, what did you notice about the challenges of collaboration and how you supported students with those challenges?
Well, I think the challenge from two parts. One is from what is the concept PSA and what's the media literacy. So because from my side, it usually is the production side, but the mindset side is totally new for them. So how to find the resource, how to analyze the information, and how to use it, and how to transform the information into the script, and how to act it out. So this is all new for them, because before they just creative writing the story about life or fantasy, but now their creative writing is on the social issue. So it's kind of serious. It's not only fantasy, it's serious. So they're using they're combining their creative thinking into their critical thinking and put into the action. So that is the mindset challenge. But another challenge, I think, is the interpersonal challenge, because we all want to be the leader, but who should be the leader? So sometimes students step up, I would say, who want to be the leader? Everyone raise their hand. I say, who follow? No one raised their hand. So in that way, it's hard to get into the goal. So how to achieve the goal? So in that way, I can say it's a time to learn not only the technology, not only the responsibility for the social issue, but also the responsibility to respect each other. For example, to respect others' opinions, and how to combine, how to explain, how to persuade. So how to come to a conclusion. So that is the challenge for them, and it's also lifelong lessons.
Hold on, I have to unmute there. Hey, so what I heard you emphasize is all those socio-emotional skills that are part of being a creative collaborator, right? And those have to be explicitly supported and scaffolded. Now, we're here in the room with a bunch of people who have had experience making public service announcements with students, and we'll invite you to unmute your microphone. What do you think is something that every teacher should appreciate before they embark on the journey? I'll start with you, Ely, and then I'll ask everybody in the room. We're going to make a list of advice. Right? What's one piece of advice that you would have for a teacher who's thought about it, wondered about it, but hasn't done it yet? What advice can you give?
I think from the production side, because I come from the film department, instructor. So I think students are very exposed to technology, cell phone, very early in the very early age, and they're very skillful. Surprise me, skillful for the iMovie or iPad or things. So I think we should have confidence to give them equipment for one group. For example, 3 or 4 student a group, you give it equipment with a camera. So in that way, they can start to work. So it's not a difficult thing for them to think about the size of shot. They don't care about size of shot or the cam microphone. They just enjoy being in group and try to make video. So I think making video is something that should introduce to the classroom. It can integrate to any subject. So just give them equipment for one group. In that way, the whole group with the equipment, everything can start. That's my suggestion.
I love that advice. I absolutely love that advice. Long ago, I learned that if there's too much planning and if it takes too long to actually get your hands on the equipment, you lose all the momentum. So I love that idea. And sometimes the ideas flow when you're in production. Okay, so that's a great piece of advice. Who's next? Scott, I know you have some advice. What advice can you offer a teacher who's just thinking about making PSAs with their students? What advice have you learned from hard-won experience?
I mean, I would probably emphasize the fact that it's going to be seen by other people. There's such a difference between, when students are producing something for their peers or a wider audience as opposed to just something that they turn into the teacher. So I would really kind of focus on that aspect of it, and the quality really seems to go up when that's brought up.
When you have a real audience, the quality goes up. That's a great piece of advice. So emphasize that idea. It's going to be seen by a real audience. Patty, what's been your experience with producing public service announcements with students, and what advice do you have to offer as we imagine somebody who might be putting their toe into this topic?
Well, I worked with students who are slightly older, and I think I would extend what Scott's talking about. And I usually provide several examples and ask them to guess who this is targeted towards, who this audience is, and what would they look like, and where would they likely see this. And so that when they start creating, one of the first things we start with is, who is your audience, and get that filled in.
I love that idea. I absolutely love that idea. I think that is super important. Iglika, will you do me a favor? I'm going to share my story, but I don't trust to share my screen anymore. Will you, hold on here. I don't know if that is showing my, oh no, it's not. I want to show you this great YouTube video from a bunch of 7-year-olds. You might think 7-year-olds are too young to make public service announcements, but the answer is no. Iglika, could you do me a favor and make your beautiful screen share again? This is a very short 30-second message produced by 7-year-olds. See if you can guess the target audience. Love that activity. Guess the target audience.
We need a big help or our city will yell. This is our home. It can't be outgrown. It doesn't matter. Memories are shattered. If we don't take a stand, there will be no land. Come on, expedition! Don't you want this land to win? If we don't litter, our city will glitter. If we're not mean, our city will be clean. And it'll seem to gleam like a perfect dream. Keep Philadelphia clean and litter us.
Oh, is that not adorable or what? These kids were asked to create something for their parents. Whoa, right? So
Another powerful one.
They knew that if they made it too personal, it wouldn't be a social issue like what Frank was talking about. It couldn't just be their families. They had to enlarge it. Their parents are residents of the city of Philadelphia. So that was, the parents started the initial target audience, and the residents of Philadelphia became, the larger audience. Patty, that is great advice. We're going around the room. We're talking about advice. Pam Morris, you're next. Have you had experience making PSAs with your students, and what advice have you learned from hard-won experience?
Two things. The first is, if someone's thinking about doing this, I think the important thing is that it really is powerful to teach students how to use their own voices for things they care about. So like those kids, if it's something they're passionate about, they'll get into it, and they'll learn that this is how I can make my voice heard, in the world. The other is that I push the media literacy question of how might this be interpreted by someone else. You'd think that a public service ad would be very targeted and have a clear message, but sometimes it doesn't, and it can make people uncomfortable. In fact, the one that you showed with Love is Love, I was thinking the color blindness at the end might be picked up on by some people who are very against that. So you have to be very careful with these things, or they can backfire.
Wow, what a great observation. Frank, what do you want to talk about this idea that different people can interpret the message differently? How come that's so important to think about in public service production?
Well, when we teach media literacy, we want to teach the big picture. Those of us who teach it, and I'm going to assume most of the folks listening, have gone through those critical thinking media literacy questions. And it's really important to consider. Atticus said to Scout, you never really understand someone until you walk in their shoes. And so that's exactly what we're trying to do here. Renee, I wanted to make one other point about my talk, my preparation to Yealy's students. Because of time limitations, I didn't have the opportunity to introduce storyboarding. But I think that's a very important part of this process. And I would have introduced what is a storyboard, because in my experience, 20 plus years, when you ask students to visualize on paper what is on the page or what's on the script, that really helps in their planning of those media productions. It really does. You know, what if you had the camera, what would this look like? And I think that the storyboarding process is an important element, you know, scripting, storyboarding, and then producing. It's so many students want to pick up the camera, the iPad, the cell phone, and they want to start shooting without a plan. And media literacy is about the process. Let us teach students to slow down and think about, what did you write? And when I do that 2-column script, the reason I want them to ignore the video when they're writing is once they've got it written, I'll go back and say, now, what do you want to see on the screen when you're saying this? How do we match the video to what we're saying? And once students realize that, then it becomes, I think, meaningful and powerful, as we've just seen. You're muted.
Now we're coming down to the finish line, but I want to bring this issue up about process and product, because I actually think that this is a tension that I feel in my own work with students, and I've definitely experienced it in many different ways. I want to show you an example of a public service announcement that raises all kinds of weird alarm bells for me. I wonder if you can see why. Iglika, you're going to share this screen. It's a public service announcement from a middle school in Hawaii. Let's look.
This is a simple straw. One straw, huh? That doesn't seem like much. But if everyone uses one straw, in America alone, we use over 500 million straws every day. To understand just how many straws 500 million really is, this would fill over 125 school buses with straws every day. This is enough to go around the earth 2.5 times in one day. Make your last straw your last straw.
Okay. Do you have an idea why that video raises alarm bells for me? Some of you know me very, very well. Others of you don't know me so well, but this video raises alarm bells for me.
The last straw is something that got me. Like, that's not the right phrase here. That's a very triggering phrase.
And
Yeah.
it's like a language learners might not know that idiom as well. Last straw.
Any other red flags that come up for you with this one? For me, it's the quality of the production that raises the flag. These are 12-year-olds, right? And this is a highly produced ad with animation and animation on live action and something about it. Now, I don't know how it was produced, but something about it makes me suspect that this was the teacher's project and the kids were like the crew. And what's so bad about that? Is that always a bad strategy? I'm not sure, but.
That's not authentic learning, is it?
What do you mean?
Well, it's teacher directed rather than student directed, right?
Right, right. You know, our culture places so much focus on product. I mean, this won a prize. This is a prize-winning public service announcement. It is really beautiful and it would hold up anywhere. You would never know. It was made by middle school students. And yet I wonder about what the experience was like for the children involved. I wonder, and I feel like in some ways I should withhold judgment until I know more about the production process that was at work. But that's something I'm concerned about. If it looks too good, I actually wonder, do the kids feel that same sense of ownership?
So that does that segue into one of the questions I was hoping you guys would get to today, but in how do you evaluate the products of the students, especially where you're encouraging creativity and experimentation, but yet you want a call to action and et cetera and et cetera. So hopefully Frank and Yili can talk to that as well.
Well,
How did you evaluate?
Yeah, I want you to know I found a rubric online and I presented it to Yili and brought it with me on the day that I returned to watch their productions. And I started to judge their productions using that rubric, but I stopped and I said, students, I want you to give feedback to your peers. What do you think the strengths and the weaknesses of the PSA? So when I returned, Yili had the video projector projecting up onto the screen, and she introduced each student's group PSA. They had a chance to talk about how difficult it was to work within that week. And then their peers were the judges. So I really threw the rubric away, and I found, I'll let Yili speak to how valuable she thought that was.
Well, that is a very amazing part. Well, with the rubric, it's kind of marking numbers, and then combine together. But Frank just throw the question there, and then it become a web. Well, students are so engaged. Everyone raise their hand, and talk about it. And I think when they give the feedback to other groups, they reflect at the other side that, wow, why don't we think about it when we made it? So it's kind of telling something good about others and something weak point, the strong point of others, and then oh, why didn't we do that? So it's quite an amazing engagement that between Frank and the students, and also the student like a mirror reflecting each other. It's amazing.
Asking students to construct their own mechanism for providing feedback yielded more high quality reflection than anything you could have done with a checklist as the instructor. Yeah. You're rocking my world. That is just fascinating. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. Wow, 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 wow.
Renee,
right, well,
I know we don't have the time now to show the PSA that the students in New York did on global warming, because the beauty of this spot that we had hoped to show you was not the PSA, because the video starts with the students showing their audience the steps that they went through in order to make the PSA. Again, making my point that you have to do that research and you have to write and storyboard. I think we might be able to.
I'm going to try, Frank. I don't know, but I'll try. Hold on just a second. If not, Iglika, I will try to give the floor to you, but maybe I can get this one to work. Our friends at the Media Spot work with schools in Brooklyn, New York, and they made this one. Frank and I just love it for so many reasons. I have to scroll down to find these videos. Aren't on the open internet, but here they are.
Well, you're about to see the public service announcement.
A PSA is like a commercial, but instead of selling something, it's teaching the public about something important.
The first thing we did was research on global warming. Then we wrote a script to teach people what we thought was important about global warming. We drew storyboards to decide what we're going to show on the screen. Then we got pictures off the internet, shot the video, and put it to match our storyboards. everything together, then add music and effects to strengthen our message. We hope you enjoyed it, but most importantly, we hope you get the message!
And here's their PSA they created.
We need to talk. You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm really disappointed in you. You say you are going to protect me. You caused it, now you have to stop it. You are polluting our air. You are making global warming worse. You caused it, now you have to stop it. Ice caps are melting, water levels are rising. Your house could be underwater. Melting icebergs are raising sea levels. These animals are dying. Do you want your animals to die? Heat waves and droughts are an effect of global warming. When heat and cold come together, it makes a tornado. Cities and places can be wrecked by global warming. Everything you saw will happen if global warming keeps coming. Here are ways you can fight global warming. Get in the car! Turn off your car when you're not using it for transportation. Eat more fruits and vegetables and eat less meat to cut down methane in the atmosphere. Plants absorb carbon dioxide, so stop cutting trees and start planting them.
Use fluorescent light bulbs. Look at this regular light bulb. It uses 100 watts, while this fluorescent one only uses 23. If you recycle more, less plastic, glass, and metals will be in our landfills, and those things will be reused.
We need you to help fight global warming.
So go to fightglobalwarming.com
before it's too late.
Oh my gosh, those are fourth graders, right?
Yeah, and there's extensive credits there. I wish we had the time to show all the credits because they adhere to copyright. They tell you exactly where they got the music, etc. And that's part of that whole process.
That is wonderful. Well, clearly we see creating public service announcements are an absolutely ideal way to teach project-based learning. In the slide deck that we shared with you, we also wanted to acknowledge that there's all kinds of really cool contests that you can enroll in and participate. The contests also can be provide a motivation for student learners. But the very best thing about what's coming up next, Frank, is what we're going to do in March.
Oh,
Guess what our topic is?
You definitely want to put this one down on your calendar, right, Renee?
We do. We're going to do Tuesday, March 14th. We're going to do a webinar on teaching about parody. Now, whose favorite genre is parody? Oh, I don't know, Frank. I love parody. Who doesn't love parody? Join us on Tuesday, March 14th. We're going to do this one at 7 o'clock so we can get our West Coast friends, right, for whom the day is just ending. We're going to try to get our West Coast friends to attend. Parody turns out to be a deviously complicated genre to teach about. But Frank, I think we'll have fun and we'll bring you guys along with us. We'll all learn from each other. So thanks for joining us today. I'm Renee Hobbs. This is Frank Baker. We are, what are we doing? We're teaching about media literacy. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.